Aloha, beloved family. Welcome to the Wake in New Earth podcast. I'm Richard Melchizedek, your Ascension host for this higher conscious conversation today. And I have a special guest today with us, Athena Melchizedek Sananda, who is devoted to empowering and educating and supporting all rising visionary leaders to access their superpowers and expand their consciousness to reach their highest potential. So Athena, welcome on to the Awaken New Earth podcast. I'm excited to engage in some deep, higher conscious conversation to expand the consciousness of all of our viewers. Kio kora kishio yoko manakanakayo yoko manakio ko atataka manakai. Welcome.
Oh, bless you, Richard. Thank you so very much for such a beautiful introduction. And first, I want to say how delighted I am and honored I am to be with you. We've had several conversations which I have always thoroughly enjoyed, and I fully expect to enjoy this one. And I'm hoping that what we share will be of benefit to bringing harmony and balance in for those who are watching. And there's so much going on at the moment. So I feel very, very blessed to have this opportunity to be with you, because we know that when one or more of us are gathered together, there is the Holy Spirit, and I'm hoping that there are going to be many more joining this beautiful podcast.
Yeah, and I think like when this whole podcast has been completely inspired about just operating within this like higher conscious divine framework of 5D, and especially some of the conversations that you and I have had, and a few other of the, my close family, where we're able to really create something organic and coming together and just speaking and holding that space for each other and allowing a process of unscripted reality to take place and just opening to that pure divine unfoldment that exists within each moment. And I feel this is what higher conscious conversation is. This is what that 5D energy that we all speak of is. And
well, I think that that's such a beautiful point really to open with, because what you have expressed and why I'm delighted to be here is what I know is that going forward into the new world that we are in the process of creating, it is very much about living in the present moment. This is what all the work that we've all done over eons of time to be here in this moment now. And this is all there is, this moment now. So you and me doing this just now is all there is in this moment. And we so easily get pulled out of that into the past, which is purely memory, or we get pulled forward into the future, which is just our imaginations and the way we create, of course. But nevertheless, we're so very rarely in the past have been in the present, So we're all being called to live this, not just talk about it now, but live it, fully embody it, be it, and to model that for others energetically. Because if we do that, and I think this is what I would love to just share with you viewers, the more of us that do that, the more we pull into resonance other beings into that space of full presence. And this is where we create. This is where we create miracles. The miracles of synchronicity. It's such a powerful place. So I love that you said that. I love that we do that. I love that we be that. Um, let's go. I don't know what's going to emerge.
I think
And
like
that's the beauty. We never ever, we don't know what wants to come through until it does. And the trust and the allowance we have to do that, to do that and be that. Yeah.
I feel one of the most important things we can be doing for all of our family right now is showing up and holding our energy in full. As you were just saying, you know, with being fully present in that moment, it's about us sitting within our energy full 100% as much as we can and showing up for them and just connecting deeply within a heart-centered space to present that kind of container to work in, or
Mhm.
that energetic support, especially with everything that we've been going through now.
Oh my, yes. My goodness. There's been a lot. Yes. I mean, we were just speaking before, and we have spoken many times about what this world is currently transitioning through. Um, it is challenging. I think we have to accept it's challenging. And, this is why we came to hold this balance, to hold harmony and balance during times of challenge. It's easy to be balanced when everything's going well. you know, and we're all, just sitting in meditation in ecstasy. But when the real life is happening, or shall we say, it's not the real life, it's the illusion that is happening on the world screen currently, as it is. It's challenging, and many people are in lots of fear, and and that fear is palpable. I mean, that energetic field of fear is, and around many issues, it's bringing up every single issue known to man and woman. this
Yeah.
is my this is my observation. This whole virus piece is bringing up everything, right from the physical to the highest spiritual level. It's bringing up the whole show for reframing reframing. And this is why this presence piece is so important, because if we can maintain that through these challenges, then we've done what we came here to do.
Mhm.
And some folks, even within the extended family, need help with doing that. So, like I said at the beginning, the more of us that can stay in a centered place, in a place of being grounded and not taking off, because it's so easy, when we're challenged, some of us want to take off and go into the higher levels. Some of us run away, run right into head on into the fear. None of this is helpful. And you've got some really great tools. I know that you've got your own tools that you help people with. I have things that I help people with, and this is really the main piece at the moment: to hold center, to be grounded, and to be in the present moment. And so, this is why I'm trying to support the people that I call the visionary leaders rising. This is basically, everyone's a leader.
Mhm.
Everyone has a divine gift. Every one of those gifts is required in this world at this time. No one is above anyone else. Every single being is precious, and every single essence is the divine essence. How can it be different?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. I feel it's really two things I want to just kind of touch base on that you brought up. it's really about us all reclaiming our sovereignty and understanding our infinite potential as a divine creator being, and coming into that level of freedom of awakening from a lot of the exterior noise that seems to be happening in the outside world, you could say. Another point to quickly touch on is I really feel this is the time. It's a huge call to action for, all of us that are had that 30 days or so to kind of go inward, especially, the light workers, the starseeds, the visionaries, to come out of this operating with a certain sense of compassion and wanting to bring this higher visionary change.
Definitely, definitely. I think that's such a beautiful piece. I just wanted it, that's so interesting. May I just show you just what's on my desk?
Absolutely, yeah. Compassion. Beautiful.
We're so aligned with, yes, the place of compassion. And it's interesting that it was Buddha's birthday last week, or Buddha's anniversary, the anniversary of his enlightenment, not his birthday, the anniversary of the Buddha's enlightenment. And he brought such compassion, the whole framework of compassion in for humanity. And I think that's so important. The compassionate heart. You speak of the call to action, but in actual fact, I'm going to bang on about this because I always do. I always do. It's the action is actually not the doing; it's the being. It's the being these qualities. It's being unconditional love. It's being compassion, because that is the frequency that holds the frequency, the highest frequency that we can attain to.
Mhm.
So it's not so much about what we're doing, because of always when we hold the being, the doingness just follows naturally, you know?
Yeah.
And so often we put the doing first. So I'm doing compassion, I'm doing something to show that I'm compassionate, or I'm doing something to show that I'm loving you unconditionally. But it's actually, I think it's really important for us all to understand that we have to be it first. And the
Mm.
being precedes any action. The action just automatic is a most automatic happening from the being.
This would be
Um,
like the God consciousness, like embodiment, like that level of, like, exactly what you're saying, which is embodying that compassion, embodying that love and kindness,
yeah, yeah.
um, opening and believing that and feeling that to like your deepest core resonance.
That's right. Yeah, and this is. I think this is a place sometimes that people get a little confused. They think they have to rush out and do something that is wonderful and be seen to be doing that, when in fact the greatest gift. This is my This is my knowing. This is my experience, having lived eons, and having lived quite a long time in this particular incarnation also. And this has been a learning for me, a learning curve for me, this that I can share with the viewers, that it really I used to think, oh, I've got to do something to I was filled with a longing and a desire to help people. Always, that's always, wherever I've been and whatever I've been doing, that's always been there. But I thought I had to do something to for that to be visible, when in actual fact what was required was that I fully become it.
Mm.
I fully embody it. I fully embody unconditional love. I fully embody deep compassion. And that, from what happens when that happens, because you can feel that in your energy system, and when you feel, it feels very different. It's so, I can't really even, this is the levels of real joy, real ecstasy, real bliss, that those incredible feelings, but then you just radiate them and emanate them out. And all your actions, whilst you're in the physical body, become that. It's such a very different place of coming to this from. I just really want to reiterate that, because it's been my own journey, my own learning, my own knowing, my own being. And I think this is why currently, however this virus started is really immaterial, whether it was man-made or whether it's it's still ended up being the cosmic slap that is saying to people, go inward. The whole reaction to the world has been come inward. People are being forced to lock down. I mean, it sounds like imprisonment, really, but what I see is that people are being asked to come in and experience what is going on in there, what is truly going on, rather than looking out, which you touched on at the beginning in your opening. Rather than going out and trying to fix out there, come in. What is going on in here that takes me out of equilibrium, that takes me into fear, that takes me into, out of compassion and out of love? And it couldn't be more plain what's happening when you step back from it. If you can step back from it, that's when and this is the test. Can we step back from it and just observe, discern, go in, and and not to have shame about this? Is another huge piece, I think, because many light workers and starseeds and people who've done, they have a lot of deep knowingness of this that I'm speaking of, but they kind of sometimes forget themselves. And when they go in and they find, like we were speaking of just before we came on, they find there's something there that isn't in balance and equilibrium. And they, rather than wanting to deal with that and face it, they want to ignore it and go to what I call the holy place. Oh, let's be holy. I'm supposed to be holy. Let's be holy. No, this is what you came to do. These are the pieces that we're all connected into. The more that we deal with this, the unconscious pieces inside of us, whatever's going on, then there's no need to feel shame or guilt about that. Feeling shame and guilt is just, it creates the exact opposite of what we're all trying to achieve here.
That's such a huge piece to discuss, that whole shame and guilt piece, because I think a lot of us that have been or are or currently going through the spiritual journey, the awakening, there's many, like they say there's many paths to the top of the mountain, but they all get there eventually. And some of the biggest growth periods within our lives have been our most difficult times. And I truly feel that level of moving into that like higher state of understanding of what your path is and how you grow from it is when you're able to shift some of that guilt and blame around some of those developmental growth stages within the spiritual path, as these are things on a soul level that we have chosen to come in and go through. And as an awakening individual or awakening soul within this human experience, it takes a while to get to that point on our spiritual path to really look back at that time or those times or those instances and understand that was like the catalyst of your change and your growth.
Exactly.
to shift from holding that in a space of guilt to understanding that was a pivotal point in your life that allowed you or birthed a whole new understanding to change, to grow, to learn, to want to heal, to discover, to search for, to go within.
Hmm.
And that whole guilt and shame piece, I feel, for light workers is probably, or, not to put labels, but anyone on this spiritual path is one of the biggest aspects for us to really shift into that, like, unconditional love, because it's that last kind of piece we hold to opening up to really loving ourselves and understanding that whole journey has to be loved, the entire
Yes,
thing.
the whole. I love what you said. That's the whole journey has to be loved. Every piece of it, all the muck, all the dirt, all the shit. Excuse me, but it's all I can say is my. I've been right down into the depths of the underworld. I can assure you, on my journey to do the work I do. This is what I chose to do. And so many. So many great masters and great teachers have always told us, that the lotus comes from the mud. The beautiful flower of the beautiful glory of the flower of the lotus emerges from the mud and the filth. And the more mud and filth that it's fed, the greater its beauty. And I just want to say, it's really something that I feel so, so strongly to share with as many as I can. Never ever be ashamed. Never feel guilty of the things that you consider bad. It's merely a perspective.
Mhm.
Good and bad is a judgment. It's a judgment call. There's really no such thing. There's just a gradient. There's no this is good and this is bad. I am good and you are bad. This is the duality in the world that we so need to get away from. You are better than I am, or I am better than you are. All of this rubbish
Mhm.
is so not, that's all constructs that we have created in order to maneuver and navigate through the muddy bits. And I just want to say, the quicker that we realize that the journey, it's the whole, the creation is all of it. If we ignore the dark, we cannot have the light. Not in this matrix.
Yeah.
It's not all about light and we want to move towards the light, and we want to bring more and more light in, and we want to create a world that is filled with light, and we want to be filled with light, yes, but in order to do that we cannot ignore the dark. We have to embrace it. This is the key piece. In any healing, and I want to say to any healers who are listening out there, any healing work is not about you fixing someone or about anything being fixed. It's about energy being transmuted into a higher frequency. It's a very big point that it's about transmutation of one frequency of energy to a higher frequency of energy.
Yeah, I love that. Um, we,
We need to see it that way.
yeah, it's like spiritual alchemy or divine alchemy, energetic alchemy, where we're transforming densities into lights.
That's right. That's right. So we shouldn't be avoiding the lower densities. The key is to be able to exist in the, our job is to exist in these densities whilst keeping the center, whilst keeping what we were talking about at the beginning of this, whilst keeping that presence, whilst keeping that balance and harmony in our system. We are required to navigate all the densities. This is multidimensional awareness. Being able to be in all of these different densities, being able to be in the physical with all that's presenting, and being able to reach the highest frequencies of unconditional love, of compassion, all those beautiful divine qualities, the divine essence that pours through each one of us every day.
And to dive a little bit deeper into this conscious conversation on that, our external reality is our internal energy.
Yes, yes. This is what is being mirrored currently as a collective to us, as a collective. Beautiful that you brought that in, Richard, because that is it. Just out there is the mirror. It's just a mirror for our individual consciousness and for our collective consciousness. So when we're looking out, what are we looking out at? Who are we looking out at? What is the person in front of us mirroring for us? What are the circumstances in the world mirroring to us?
Yeah, it's what sacred messages are coming through within this moment for us to be able to go within and see, because there tends to be that we want to look at everything as a face value, and it has such a deeper meaning when things are presented or issue or conflict or something arises. A lot of times it's not even to do with that individual.
No.
Or that circumstance. It's more around the energy associated with that is stored within us on a subconscious level or on a cellular level. And it allows us that once we become 100% accountable for our own energy, we're able to look at that as a gift, as a sacred message coming forward to show us that we have this frequency within us that's stored on some level.
Yeah, because we're connected. That's such a beautiful, thank you for again bringing that in, because we're connected to the morphogenetic field of the species. We hold, our DNA holds the whole of creation energetically. We have all the information. So we cannot not be connected. That this is why it's so silly for people to say, well, that belongs to them and this belongs to me. Excuse me, at the deepest level, we're connected into it all. But what happens is the ego wants to say, oh my gosh, no, that's not me. No, that's you. That's not me, that's you. That's what, because there is a deep understanding of the truly deep connectedness of all energy. We're just an aspect. This is just a projection. This that we're looking at. It's only what we're taking in through the 5 physical senses.
Moving forward, I know you do or have done and currently doing lots of work in terms of assisting visionaries and leaders and kind of, operating that higher conscious role for them. So this is something that has come up recently as well. I really feel this is a time to be having 5D visionary think tanks and ones that operate within this like higher conscious like awareness, where we talk about and being in that embodiment stage and understanding what that is to hold that space and being open to that divine unfoldment and allowance and showing up for each other within these think tanks, or however we would like to describe them, to start to birth a new understanding of how to kind of move forward as a collective. So I know we've had some discussions on this before. I'd just love to have a little bit of your take on that.
Well, I think it's absolutely essential we come together in group form. This is, I have written a lot about this. I've written a book, as you know, which mentions this, but also I've written, excuse me, many articles around what I call synarchy, which is shared leadership. This is about moving away from the current paradigm, which is a hierarchical, top-down type of leadership. But this synarchy is a shared circular leadership, where everybody's gifts are valuable to the whole. And it doesn't mean that there isn't necessarily one person that might take over one aspect of the group, but it does mean that but it's not considered as a hierarchical structure. I mean, this paradigm of hierarchy is the one that has brought the world to the situation it's in now. And we see it everywhere: institutions, big business, governments. It's running the world as it was. And this is now breaking down. We're seeing this breaking down. So this is kind of the bigger picture part of it. So for us as individuals now, rather than working on our own, I see that we will start to work more in group form, just like you've said. I don't know how we call them, whether it's think tanks. I don't like the word mastermind. That's kind of, I don't know, just for me, that has the old connotation. But this group mind, this group, because remember, we're all pulling from the same mind. There's only one of us. There is actually only one of us in a myriad of different forms at the physical level. So the more, the journey back to source is realizing that we individuate. It's just like a cell. It's like the cell in a body. You have an individual cell that ultimately creates a physical body that is trillions of cells coming together to form one unit. So this is what we're being called to do now. I do believe that this is, for me, this has been coming in very, very strongly, that working as an individual is not what I want to be, where I want to be, or what I want to do, and that I'm being called to work with others to bring as much of what we're talking about there out to help and support everyone. So I would just like to just to say to your audience, just think about that. It may be something that you haven't even considered, but when we work together, we create a much more powerful field, and we're able to really accelerate expansion in an exponential way. And I do feel, I mean, it's not clear to me how this is going to, for me, this is still in the stages of creation, because it's a co-creation. It's not just about me. It's just my um, you know, my knowingness that I know, for instance, that I am coded for Synergy.
Mm.
So I've done a lot of work around my own coding, and I know that this is what I'm here to do, and what I'm here to help others do. So you know, watch this space is all I can say. If you want to join me, please just. And I know Richard, you know, you and I have spoken to. Well, we probably need to speak some more about how that might look for us. You know.
Yeah, absolutely. There's like one of the things I'm figuring out more and more, or I don't even want to say figuring out, I want to say is coming into shape through this like 5D or higher conscious framework, is that whole allowance and that whole opening up to, like we talked about showing up, we talked about being present, we talked about embodying and being within that stage. So when we bring higher conscious people together without a predetermined agenda, but to have that divine framework in place for all of us to show up for each other and allow in that unfoldment to take place, it just kind of naturally takes shape through that framework of what, you know, that full service work is to be. And it starts to come together more beautifully and more divinely guided than anything I feel like we could even script, you know. And
Yes, indeed. I mean, it's just like this meeting. We haven't scripted this meeting. It's happening. It's emerging through us, um, and it's beautiful. It's a lovely feeling. I feel to just have emergence rather than scripts and plans and you know, trying to figure it out. I can say one thing I didn't mention. I've been working on this for some time with other groups because, as you know, my background is a business background.
Mhm.
And this is, of course, one of the big areas that I'm hoping to be able to support and to to influence with this kind of thinking, with this group thinking. And you know, I see many people are now coming into the space of the group energy. I mean, most courses and teachers that you see out there are utilizing the power of group mind to create and to you know, to develop themselves. So I've been working for some time with a group, with business group, along those lines. But I do feel now, you know, this whole big move for me. I've just moved heaven and earth to get to another continent in the middle of a pandemic, which is has brought its own challenges. But nevertheless, I feel that part and parcel of that, of all of that, has been to co-create with people, particularly on this continent, and particularly in maybe in Canada, the type of group we're speaking of. You know, let's see. I don't know. I don't know how it's going to emerge. You know, the more that we put this out there, the more people can either resonate with it and can bring in their own ideas, bring in their own divine essence and their own divine intelligence to this project, to these kinds of projects. But I do feel that you know, the Aquarian energy that we are in or moving into, transitioning. I think we've been transitioning for the past 500 years, I believe, into Aquarius, into the age of Aquarius. It's not just
Oh my
something that
God.
happens like that. And you know, it's all about working as in group form. So let's get some of these star seeds together and light workers together and really see what emerges. It's so exciting.
It is. And this is, you know, we all feel this like calling, this mission, this higher purpose, to express like our own unique genius on a level that is like connected and into this bigger puzzle that's coming together. So I love that you talk about, you know, this co-creational energy of coming together and creating, because it really just shows that level of shifting past that old aggressive like male energy, or past that egoic energy, and coming more into that we as opposed
The
to me.
we space, yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It's very much, you know, this energy is very much about collaboration rather than the old paradigm of hierarchy. It's about how can we help each other, how can we support each other, how can we expand together, how do we live in and create a new society with new structures. That's what we're coming into, because look, we can see with our own eyes what is happening now in terms of the old structure, because that's what's out there is only what is going on inside all of us. These old structures are breaking up. They're finished. They no longer serve us or the planet.
Yeah.
And this is, you know, what came in for me yesterday. One of my great teachers has been Sadhguru. I spent some time with him in India, and I feel very blessed I was able to do that. And I was just watching one of his teachings yesterday, and he said, you know, the three most important things on the planet are the children, because they're the future, education, because, yeah, we need to learn new ways. And I can't remember what the third thing is. I'm just gonna, isn't that terrible? The children. Oh, of course. How can I? I'm sitting on the planet. Ecology, 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 you know, the planet.
Yeah.
So those three things. We're here to create the new and bring forth a glorious new world. We can do this together, not fighting one another for space, but together.
Yeah, I think it's always interesting when I just think about how we've existed for so long, even our educational systems, and there's nothing in there about soul growth. You know, how do we have entire societies that have been constructed and built that don't even involve the growth of the human soul, you know, like the growth of the soul journey, you know?
But this is why so many children, you know, these children have been labeled all sorts of things, and I'm not even going to go into the labels because I don't want to give it energy. But you know, the children that can't be with the old education system because it's not teaching them what they need to know.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they need to know what you and I have been talking about here, and the many other conversations that are going on around all this this stuff that and I've met many of these children. They're incredible.
Yeah.
They're incredible. They're fully streaming divine intelligence, and there's nowhere for it to go. This is why they're always leaping about and jumping about. Their energy levels are off the charts.
Mm-hmm.
There aren't any structures for them to fit into, because they're not meant to fit in. And incidentally, neither are we. Neither are we. We're not meant to fit into the old structures. We're meant to co-create the new.
Yeah, it's beautiful, and I feel these the children that are coming in right now, they're just so high frequency. You know, they're coming in from places that may have not have come in here, you know, into the earth realm previously, and it's really going to be assisting in all of the processes that are coming forward and coming through, and these changes that are occurring. You know, coronavirus, was a global mindfulness test. I actually refused to call it isolation. I called it a rebirthing, because it was such a sacred opportunity for us to go within and come out of this completely different than when we went in, and we got to choose how that would what that would represent or how that would be. And I feel on another level, this is happening on a grander scale with the children coming in.
Yeah.
You know, the children coming in are going to be bringing this other level of change where they're not fitting into the educational systems. They're not fitting into the old styles of parenting. They're breaking down all of these constructs and
All of the barriers,
yeah, and creating conversations in how we support and assist and move forward, because it's just like you mentioned, you know, there's all the labels and all these other things out there. It's not really about the labels. It's about, as a society, how are we moving forward and supporting our children?
of course.
How are we supporting our communities? How are we operating in full service? Like, this is how are we honoring our families? How are we honoring our children? Man, that's truly part of my mantra is, you know, am I honoring myself today? Am I honoring all of my relationships?
Well, just to jump in on that, I was just going to say that the first piece is, how are we honoring ourselves? That's where it all starts. That's why, you know, any of this that we're talking about starts with us, starts with how we are being and how we are honoring this one, because this is the way that we make change, that we create change, and we bring it forth into into our communities, our relationships, our communities, all our systems. This is where we began the conversation.
And this is us here speaking our like true authentic voice on these matters, you know, which is another level of honoring as well, where just for myself personally, it's been one of the biggest pieces in terms of fully stepping out and onto that path of honor, where sometimes speaking our true authentic voice, we want to look at that on a person to person or a physical to physical level, but it's actually based on a soul growth level. And for us to ask, am I honoring myself here? Am I honoring the other individuals or people involved? And looking at it, the honoring is actually what is for the highest soul growth of all involved. You know, so when we get into like those aspects, kind of moving forward, how are we, this whole process of coronavirus and everything we're seeing right now, how are our leaders honoring us? You know, how are they honoring us right now? And I think it's for all of our viewers asking those kind of questions, you know, and how are we honoring, you know, the future generations moving forward with just the way things have currently been existing up until this point.
I think a lot is going to change. Well, it's changing. It's in the process of changing. I think there's much, much more to come in terms of us seeing how almost a societal breakdown, because it has to, for the new to emerge. This is why I think this is so timely. These kinds of conversations are so timely. And I hope we keep on doing them in some way or other, you know, and that will emerge, I'm sure. We have much to be and much to do. And I think it will become clearer as, like we began this conversation with, being in the moment, what is here today. We can't rush into the future. We can only deal with what is being presented today and do that to our fullest ability, you know, being connected to source, keeping that connection, keeping the groundedness, keeping the centeredness, keeping the presence, and just allowing the divine to run the show.
Yeah. And it's beautiful when we're stepping into that level of trust within our own journey and within this greater cosmic journey that's taking place right now as well. I
That can be
feel
quite scary. It can be quite scary for many. I can attest to that.
I feel this is a
Having
huge wake up call for a lot of people as they've especially, you know, light workers or starseeds, anyone that knows they have a bigger mission, that has been caught on this 3D hamster wheel for so long, uh, commuting, going to their jobs, and all of these other things that they have just done for so long. They've actually had the time to kind of sit with themselves. And I can just see so much positive coming out of this time right now, because I think it's another form of a clarion call for, you know, we answered the clarion call to come in, you know, and to be here during this like time of universal ascension to bring massive change and to assist, whether it's like just having these conversations or bigger visionary aspects that come through, but all of those ones that are have this mission and that deep burning inside, knowing there is a greater life purpose that they came here for, has just had, possibly for the first time in their life, a full global reset to go
mm-hmm,
within and get that wake up call. And
mm-hmm,
I feel they're not going to want to go back
mm-hmm,
to what they were doing before.
mm-hmm. And I think I think you're right, Richard. And I also think it's going to be so important that there are places and spaces for those people to get to come and to be. This is why I feel that this group piece is so important in our you know co-creation, because as more and more come out of the old and into the new, and we're creating it as we go.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I might sound pretty vague. I really don't care that I sound vague. It is vague. It's coming in. It's co-creation. This is how it works. This is how it looks. It's not like anything we've done before.
Mm.
Well, I say that maybe we have done it before in different levels, but now we're doing it in this physical world on this planet. So yeah.
I'm truly honored and just blessed with the conversation that's been coming through today. It's always such a pleasure to connect with you, Athena. For all of our viewers, do you want to let them know how they can get a hold of you? Also, tell them a little bit about your book, where they can get that, any kind of programs or offerings that's coming up that you've been working on. If you could share with them,
Yeah,
it'd
thank
be
you,
fantastic.
Richard. Well, yeah, I wrote a book called The Quantum Keys. That was published in 2015, I think, or somewhere around there. And that's really all about the convergence of science with the ancient wisdom. Really, for people who just need to understand how energetics really work. It's also a pathway to transformation. It gives a beautiful, it's been my own pathway to my own transformation, so that's included as part of the book. And then there are some specific energy practices, so that's that. I have a website called amelchizedek.love, which I think you've put on your notes or something, so you can connect with me there. I've got a lovely free uh, uh, gift for all your viewers, which is all about presence, grounding, and centering to help them through these turbulent times. So that I think, will be available on your notes with the show, the podcast. And yeah, I'm very, very happy to always talk with anyone that has any questions about anything that we've been talking about today. Just email me or message me if you've I'm on Facebook, I'm on LinkedIn, I'm on all the places you're supposed to be on, I'm here, ready, willing, and able to be with anyone that cares to contact me.
It's beautiful. Truly just blessed for this experience, and I hope all of our guests have enjoyed this conversation as well. And I'm just going to do a quick little bit of light language to help anchor in all of the frequencies that have come through in this higher conscious conversation today. Kyo yokura kishio yokamana kana kana kai koko 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 koko. Uamana kia tata kiana kiana kishio yokomana ki. Arakio yokoro koro koro komanakai. Sending so much love and gratitude from my heart to your heart. I hope you enjoyed this episode of the Awaken New Earth podcast with Athena Melchizedek Sananda. Aho, namaste, and blessed be.
Namaste.